Hi folks, Andrew Maguire here. A few weeks ago, a few friends of mine and me, we went up to Ben Nevis and we climbed it, the highest mountain in the UK. It's nearly 1,400 metres of ascent and it's a very, very tough climb. Now we summited via the CMD Arete, which is an alternative method, an alternative route to the straightforward mountain track or the pony track or the tourist route. It took us 11 hours up and down in total, and anyone that knows that's done that this circuit from the Ben Nevis Youth Hostel will know that it's a good old trek. And we got up and down without a hitch, a couple of sore knees on the way down. Anyone who's done Ben Nevis will know what I'm talking about. But I managed halfway round to get this really cool vista of the Arete. Now the Arete is, imagine like a knife edge ridge that separates one mountain to Ben Nevis. Now the mountain that we're stood on or coming down was called the Canon. Now the Arete, like I said, is the ridge that leads up to Ben Nevis. So that is quite an iconic photograph, one that I really wanted to take. I couldn't really make it a photography vlog or a trip, mainly because I didn't really want to slow the boys down, because of me and Ryan and Pidge and Omar. I didn't want to say, look lads, can I just have another couple of minutes because I need to take another photo. So instead, what I did was I got the camera out, sorry, and I did a panorama. Now I took 8 shots. I did take some other shots, but these are some of the best that I got. And I went from left to right, and I got a really nice vista. Now you might be thinking 8 shots is quite a lot. A lot of pixels might have been wasted. Yes, you could argue that, but I would argue that I needed to take all of those shots at 24mm, which is as wide as my lens would go, all the way around, so I could get that view in. I couldn't do it with a wide angle lens. I couldn't do it enough justice. So I'm going to show you how to create a panorama using Lightroom CC and Photoshop CC. So we've got our shots here as a collection, and what we're going to do, we're going to go up to photo, and then we're going to drop it down to edit in, and then we're going to go down to merge to panorama in Photoshop. So highlight all of these by pressing Shift and holding down from one to the other, and you can highlight them all. Make sure you're selected on auto, press OK, and then go and get yourself a cup of tea, because it will probably take a minute or two, might be a little bit optimistic. And Photoshop will stitch those photos together and create you a panorama from the photos that you've provided. Okay, so we've just opened up a panorama in Photoshop. Out of those images, Photoshop has stitched it together quite nicely. So the first thing I'm going to do is I am going to get my composition sorted, because I don't want to be, obviously, I don't want to have those white and grey squares in my shot. So let's get the crop tool, and straight away, I might have to give my computer a minute because it might be having a senior moment here. There we go. I don't want to go any wider than what I've already chosen, but what I think I might do is go higher and bring the bottom up, so we're not wasting too many pixels. Okay, so that looks to be good. So we've done that, we hit the tick, and then we've got to, obviously now, because we've now got a new composition, we've now got to fill in those gaps. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing we need to do is you can do it a few ways, but the way that I prefer to do it is get the Magic Wand tool, and you can click on those white and grey areas, and by using the Content Aware tool, you'll be surprised just how good it is. It literally fills in the gaps, fills in the blanks. I don't know how Photoshop does it, but it takes information from what pixels are around it and next door, and subsequently makes something out of nothing. It's quite amazing. So it really is a great tool to have. Now I'm going to put you on pause again, because I think that my computer is having a bit of a senior moment. Okay, so we're back. So now what I'm going to do is select that Magic Wand tool. Let's select it. We'll go with the Magic Wand tool. And what I'm going to do, what I perhaps should have done before the crop, is Command and E. Now Command and E flattens the image, so it compresses all those different layers, because you remember from Lightroom we had 8 separate JPEGs, raw images, whatever you use, and they come into Photoshop as layers. So imagine 8 slices of pizza or a cake. Now we're just making it into one whole pizza or cake. I'm just making myself hungry now. So that's what we're doing. We're flattening the image. So now we're just going to be dealing with one layer because we don't need to be making separate adjustments. We want to use just one layer. That's all we need. So we're going to flatten everything because it's much easier to work with just one. So what am I going to do? I'm going to select this area here, and look at that. It's a magic wand, so it's magic. So what we're doing now, we need to expand those layers, expand that selection. So I'm going to go up to Select, Modify, Expand. Now I'm going to expand that by, let's say 10 pixels. And what it does, it actually just overcompensates for what you've selected. Now when we press Shift and Delete, we'll see what happens. That needs to be on Content Aware, so make sure that's not on anything else. We hit OK, and then the magic starts to happen. We hit OK, and I'm hoping this won't take forever like it has been doing. Then we press Command D, and that's deselect. So there we go. So the right hand side of the image, magical already, look at that. We do exactly the same for here. Now there's no line separating that, so yeah, that can do the same. So that all of these pixels should be taken care of here. I'm not so sure if this will work because there's a lot of different dynamics here. So let's expand by 10, and then let's Shift and Delete. Let's see what happens. Command D, deselects it, and look at that. What a brilliant job Photoshop has just done. So now what we do, I don't know what this green thing is here at the front of my image. I think I might get rid of that. So I'm just going to get the clone stamp tool, and we're just going to clone that out. I think that's the best thing to do. So we need the clone stamp tool, and we're just going to, what should we do? We'll clone it from here. I'm going to make sure that's a really big brush size. There we go. And we're cloning. And it's gone. A little bit of green stuff there. So I'm just going to follow that up there. And I think that looks pretty good. Cool. Okay, so now we are ready to save the image, and we're going to export it back into Lightroom. So let's save it. And you're going to join me back in Lightroom when I have reopened this stitched together unedited file. Okay, voila, here we are, we're back. So what I'm going to do now is go to develop, and I'm going to do quite a fairly swift edit on this because the purpose of this video wasn't really about the quality of the edit or the quality of the photograph, really just the process of how to process a panorama. So I'm going to, first of all, what I will do is I'm going to drop a graduated filter down there, and I'm just going to get rid of any shadow detail and bring the clarity back up to 0. But I'm just going to drop the exposure there a little bit. Yeah, I think that looks cool. I might drop the highlights at the top of the frame without completely killing them. A certain part of my sky was slightly overexposed, and so you've got to be very careful on completely killing and blowing out your highlights. So I'm going to bring my whites up a little bit actually, because if I bring them down it'll be too obvious. And I'm going to just bring my blacks down. Blacks go back up a little bit. Yeah, that's fine. One thing that I never do is try to put clarity in your clouds, just because it doesn't quite look representative really. It's a bit of a cheap way to make your skies look epic, and I don't necessarily think that's a really good way to do it. I'm not too happy with this section here, so I might just clone that with this little bit above Ben Nevis. I'm going to use the heel brush there. That should make it a little bit softer. Excellent. Yeah, that looks really good. Okay, so now onto the dodging and burning of the actual shot. So we select a brush, and then we're just going to get busy. First of all, we'll go with the highlights first. So anything that looks to you as, you know, a fairly light side of the picture, we're going to go with that, and we're going to draw on it. So this is going to be our leading line here. This is because this, basically, for those of you that are keen to climb this is the path that you take. And the Carnmore Jareg is quite treacherous in bad weather. In fact, a very good friend of mine, Ryan Broadhurst, who was one of the climbers that day, has made a really, really cool video about our ascent up there. So I would definitely recommend checking his video out. Now that video will be in the description below, so make sure you check that out. It's a really informative video, and it contains all information about the route that we took and the temperature, the time that we took to do things, that sort of thing. So definitely check that out. So I'm just going to go over some of the key highlights here, and I'm just going to boost the clarity and just boost the exposure, just to give us something slightly different. So there we go. Exposure can come up a bit, but the clarity, there we go, the clarity comes up. And the shadows, they can come up a little bit as well. I want to drop the highlights. That might be overkill there a little bit, because that looks a bit like, well, unrealistic. So I'm going to drop that a bit, and I'm going to now work on the shadows. So we're going to drop those. But what we want to do is get a nice contrast. So let's just use that brush. I wouldn't say willy-nilly, but look for the darker areas of the picture, and then we can just accentuate those. Look for lines, texture. With mountain photography, that's easy because there's so much texture and so many different lines, especially in rocky, craggy areas. Again, if we pull the clarity up, this will give it a bit of punch. Yeah, that looks cool. So we'll bring those blacks down. Yes, so all of a sudden we've got a really, really sort of moody looking shot. Now I don't really like that ridge that runs right down the middle of the bend, so I'm going to just address that. So it looks a little bit like I've done that deliberately. So I'm going to blend that in by enhancing the clarity, and I'm going to bring up the shadows there. There we go. And the contrast goes up. Highlights come down. In fact, I'm going to bring the shadow down. No, I'm not. I'm going to take it back up. Okay. Cool. Yeah, good. That looks pretty cool. Now, one thing I'm keen to do is to add a vignette, because I always do this on my shots, and it just adds a little bit more drama. Just pinches your image a little bit in the corners, and it allows you just to really focus on what's in the middle. And I've just noticed that this huge rock here is a little bit distracting, isn't it? So I wonder if I can just clone that out with anything that's in the sort of relative foreground. It'll have to be something that's fairly close. We'll see what that looks like. Yeah, I think that looks cool. Yeah, good. So we just use, oh, that does not look cool. And we'll just clone the clone. So we'll just stick that clone on top of the clone that I just cloned. Up a little bit, just wait for the computer to stop having a moment. There we go, that's better. Okay, cool. So we're looking pretty good. Now, I did say from the get-go that this is going to be a colour shot. So let's have a look with the white balance, see how it looks. I think this works as a colder image. So if we just drop the blues in, I think that gives it a nice image. Now again, I'm going to sharpen. I'm going to go quite strong in the sharpening. I'm going to go to about 40, something like that. And I'm also going to enhance the vibrance, but bring down the saturation. That makes a nice nice contrast, I think. Yeah, that's pretty cool. Good, good, good. Right, now one thing I'm going to do now, just to looking to add the finishing touches, is just add this little circular area. And I'm going to drop that over the back of the arete like that. And the clarity is going to come all the way up. And I'm going to increase the exposure just because I want it to look like the light's falling on there. That looks pretty cool. And I want it to just show the route that you have to take. You have to walk along that to get up there. One final thing I want to do is just enhance this bit of cloud that's sitting over the top of the arete. So let's get the clarity up quite high on this. I'll bring the shadows down. I might get away with the exposure, but mainly it's the clarity. Yeah, that looks cool. Okay, so I think we're getting towards the end now. I think I might just play with the overall exposure and just drop that up a touch. Yeah, I think that looks good. I think that's cool now. And what I might do is just play with the hues in the sky. So what I might do is just add a little bit of magenta in there, and I might just pull a bit of blue. No, I think I might go a bit more yellowy. Yeah, that looks cool. Nothing too strong. Good, good, good. It's nice and subtle. Okay, now this shot was actually taken in the middle of the day. Please don't judge me, photographers, because I know that's a big no-no. But, or no. You very rarely say no, do you? And I couldn't really avoid taking this shot because this was the only shot they wanted to take. If I wanted this shot in good light, I would need to be an expert mountaineer because it's very dangerous to descend and ascend from this point where we were in bad light. So if you're thinking of doing this route, do it in broad daylight first, unless you're in a very, very experienced mountaineer. It's not an easy route, but it's a very, very exciting route. And we did get to the top. I might have just ruined it for you, for those of you that were going to watch Ryan's video. So I think that's pretty cool. I'm just going to rub a clarity brush just over a few things, just over this valley here. There's a little river that flows all the way into the distance. I might just do that. I might just take this gully up a little bit. Yeah, it's cool, that's good, that's good, that's good. I absolutely love the clarity tool. I don't know if I could live without it. But I think it's important not to over-claritize, if that's a word, because it can look a little unrealistic if you go too much. And I think everyone knows someone, or everyone knows a picture that they've seen where the clarity is just a little bit too much. And you can see it in photos, can't you? You can see when it looks good and when it doesn't. Now, because there's not a human element in this picture, I think sharpening and clarity is fine. Again, try and avoid using it on your skies, but when you're using it to bring out texture and contrast and tone in solid surfaces like rocks, go to town on it. Why not? So, boys and girls, I think that's a finished image. So that, ladies and gentlemen, is the Canon Arete on. Oh, I should really start that again, shouldn't I? Really, this is the Canon Arete en route to Ben Nevis. Ben Nevis is the highest mountain in the UK, at just over, I think it's about 1,400 metres. And took us about 8 hours to summit via this route from the Glen Nevis Youth Hostel, and then 3 hours on the way down, 2.5, I think. So it's a good old trek, but well worth it to get this picture. And it's not over with Ben Nevis. I will be returning one day, and maybe I'll be on this very, very spot one day in great light. And I'll be able to get a real corker. But until then, I think this really does a bit of justice. The midday fog and the mist was starting to come in. And it teases you a little bit. And that's what mountain photography does. It really does tease you. The weather especially teases you. Because literally, the weather is changeable in a second, not a half an hour. It can literally be sunny 1 second, and then a second later, sometimes you can be in the clouds, then you can be out of the clouds, and it's just that crazy. But definitely worth it. So I think that is pretty much all for the shot that I like. I might just play with the overall shadows and the highlights. Just drop those down. I'm going to just enhance the contrast, pick those whites up, drop those blacks, enhance the overall clarity slightly, and there we go. Now that is a finished image. So thanks very, very much for watching, everyone. I really hope you've taken something from this. Please continue to subscribe. For those of you that have subscribed, please share, comment, and let me know what you think of the picture. So until the next video, thanks very much for watching. I'm sorry it wasn't an outdoor vlog with wild camping or something like that, but I promise some of those videos will be coming soon. So thanks again for watching, and goodbye.